know how important individualized education programs, or IEPs, are for helping students with disabilities thrive. Our blog series by author, consultant, and former special education director and teacher, Carol Kosnitsky, shares tips you can use to create actionable IEPs based on students' strengths. An IEP has the potential to tell the right story for each student. Done right, it not only describes the student's strengths and assets and identifies areas of need, it charts a pathway for a successful school year. But to be relevant and meaningful, the IEP needs to be based on current, reliable, and valid information. When you're creating an IEP, here are 10 sources of information to consider. 1. Special education assessments. Initially, these assessments help you determine if a student is eligible for special education, to see if there's a disability and if the student requires specially designed instruction. But these assessments also provide instructional information, including the student's strengths and needs, and recommendations for instruction and accommodations. 2. IEP progress monitoring data. Once you've implemented the initial IEP, you'll collect progress monitoring data to show the status of goal achievement, what the most effective instructional approaches are, and the student's growth rate. You can use this data to inform present level statements, how you select goals, performance criteria, and what are the appropriate supports and services for the student. 3. Other assessments. IEP teams should update information that accurately reflects the student's present levels of performance. Districts use benchmark assessments to assess all students at their grade level throughout the school year. But for students performing well below grade level, these assessments might be too challenging to truly reflect what the student can do. If you find that the student did not meet his or her grade level benchmark, let's say at 4th grade, the proper action would be to assess the student at 3rd grade, then 2nd grade, and so on, until the student meets the benchmark for that grade. Use this process and you'll certainly have a lot of current and empirical data on what the student can do. 4. Observations. Observations can help you assess students' functional performance in school settings, including how they generalize skills between the special and general education setting, follow classroom routines, engage in social interactions, and manage themselves in the complex general education environment. 5. Student input. Be sure to set aside time with students to discuss their strengths, interests, preferences, and personal accomplishments before the IEP meeting. Help students identify their needs and how they can get help, and their goals for the upcoming year. This way, not only will IEPs be informed by student input, but students will become more self-aware as well. Giving students the chance to present their input in their own words during the IEP meeting is very empowering. 6. Parent input. No one knows a child better than his or her parents. Be sure to contact the parents before an IEP meeting to discuss their child's strengths, needs, and interests, and any other information that they may want to share. Having the opportunity to think about these things prior to the meeting can help parents participate more at the meeting. 7. Teacher input. Classroom teachers have vital information about their students, but they may not know what they should contribute to the IEP. So ask them a few targeted questions like, what are the demands for this grade when it comes to level of independence and degree of writing? How does the student perform in these areas when compared to classmates? How do you address these discrepancies? What do you want next year's teacher to know about this student? 8. Grade level expectations. The IEP team should be up to date on grade level expectations in order to support a student's progress in the curriculum. If they are, the team can prioritize student needs and make sure the student's goals, supports, and services are aligned. Remember, the IEP must describe expected performance versus actual performance and help tell the story of the gap between the two. 9. Behavioral data. IEP teams should look at attendance data as well as more sophisticated data from behavioral intervention plans. If they see concerning patterns in this behavioral data, they should ask follow-up questions to determine if the patterns are related to the student's disability. Think about whether or not a functional behavioral assessment could shed light on behavioral issues that the IEP should address. 10. State assessments. More and more states are focusing on growth models, allowing teams to see if students are making progress over time. Even though state assessments may bring challenges, the IEP team can examine this data to see if a student is getting the appropriate accommodations during instruction and assessments. Now that you know which sources of information to consider, here are some tips to help you collect and manage data from these sources. First, share the job of collecting data. Create a plan as to who will do what and when. This avoids gaps and redundancies. Second, use technology to collaborate with each other. Many IEP software systems give team members the ability to share input. Or your district may use other platforms that let teams store and share information like progress monitoring data throughout the year. Be sure to follow your district's policies about protecting student privacy. Third, develop questions to help you get important information from students, parents, and teachers. While everyone will be able to give input at the IEP meeting, if you provide questions beforehand, it will help everyone arrive better prepared. Lastly, help team members find time to make observations and collaborate around the IEP process. You can do this by helping to provide coverage in the classroom while they focus on these important tasks. Remember, the IEP is only as strong as the foundation it's built on. Make sure teams collect and use multiple sources of data in order to tell the right story for each student.